Well, hi there, it's Matthew, and welcome to a really special edition of Learn from People Who Lived It. Today's episode is super intentional, okay? Since leaving my retreat almost a year ago to the date and leaving my career about 6 months ago, nearly every single day, somebody will come up to me and they'll say, who do you like? Who should I talk to? My life doesn't feel great either. What should I do? What do you know? All these things, right? And so I have been going out on networking meetings. I'm not joking to you, sometimes 2 and 3 times a week, just trying to meet cool people in the mental wellness space. And, we've already brought a few partners to the table, okay? But there's something different happening at a growing space. And a growing space is founded by Dr. Camilla Pecca and Francis, who you're getting ready to meet. Now, the first time that I met them, their energy was so contagious that I was like, we have to do something together. And so we are doing something together. I can't believe that I'm in a partnership with these guys. They change lives every single day of their lives. And their approach is what's so flippin' cool, right? She's a psychologist with a PhD, and she's cherry-picked the best stuff of the last couple of decades. And then he's this coach who's just like an absolute fireball. And so she helps to heal you up, and then he takes you and just catapults you into your brand new life. Oh my God, you're going to hear so many cool things today. And if any of it resonates and you want to learn more, I'm going to tell you to text the word learn to 623-202-4553. Okay. Learn to 623-202-4553. No obligation there, right? That's just going to get you on the phone with either Camilla or Francis to have a talk and see if this is the right thing for you. But if you are looking for an answer, let me be clear. These two could really help you.
Welcome to another episode of Learn from People Who Lived It.
So if you're going to go down this journey, a smooth and long runway is what you're looking for. We have that in the room, and then Francis takes over with this no-nonsense approach. So let's meet the crew that's hanging on our podcast today. Dr. Camilla and Francis, how are you both?
Good, excellent.
Absolutely great.
Yeah, I'm excited to be in your space. We're in your studio right now. You've got this enormous aquarium behind us. Tell us first up a little bit about that.
Well, I really always believe in this word called the green light. And I always wanted this fish tank. It was just a dream. I was little, we had a little 10-gallon tank, and my father for Christmas bought me this big, gigantic tank, and I wanted another one. And my dad, and I thought that was it. I was gonna say, that's it. But he gave me the green light and got me a 52-gallon tank when I had a 35, and I thought it was the greatest thing in the world. And so years went by, you have a job, you all the responsibilities of life, but always in my back of my mind, I said, someday I'm gonna have a fish tank. And I never was able to get it, just different circumstances that would come in. And I met Camilla, and I told her, I was like, I want the biggest fish tank in my wall, in our wall someday. And this is when we were just starting to date, and then we got married, and she's like, you know what? Go get the fish tank and get it as big as possible and as bright as possible. And I want to be a part of it. And when I say that story, a lot of times I water up, and I still do. But the reality is, I never forgot when he said, your tank is in, and Camilla said, let's go. She was as excited as me, and she doesn't know anything about fish. And this wasn't her thing, but she wanted to share it with me. And so I remember we drove to the place, and it was a little warehouse, because he's like, this is all going to get set up, but I want you to see it. And it was huge. And I remember Camilla saying, this is huge. And there's just like that exciting feeling. And then I remember we were starting to shop for some fish, and Camilla was like, this is so exciting. And I thought to myself, she's as excited as me, and it's not even her thing. And I just thought this is like, that green light is like an energy that just, I don't know how to, it's just unbelievable when you have that green light in life.
Yeah, I like it. Well, it's a result of your relationship, something you guys have worked hard on. Yeah. I'm excited to sit down with you guys because I believe in the approach that you have. That's really what drew me to both of you, is that I believe in the approach that you have, which is, Dr. Camilla, let's get a little bit of your background first and talk about how you got to where you are at now. So what was the start like for you?
So it's kind of an interesting start. It actually started in high school, which is kind of a crazy story. I was in my senior year of high school, and I didn't really have a whole lot of classes to take. And so I had an elective, and they're like, well, you can help one of the kids that needs help as a peer support. And he had Down syndrome. And I absolutely loved it. We would dance with him. We did the theater class together. We would like put on the music, and he would like moonwalk, and I'd do it with him. And I'm like, I love this kid. And I was like, and it came to the end of the year, and I was actually going to the principal's office to get in trouble for something. And the principal said to me, you're not in trouble. She said, what I want to tell you is that you have a gift. And I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, you need to be helping people. And it was crazy because I never thought that I was going to go that route. I actually wanted to be an immunologist at that point. And so I didn't want to work with people at all. I wanted to work with like crazy and rare diseases. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. And then I got to college, did some ABA work with kids on the spectrum, and was like, this is fascinating. Like, this is super cool. Ended up in the UK for 11 years and was like, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it here. And the UK in Europe has a very different approach to training where you're experiential the whole way. So I did all my training as experiential training, which means I had to dig into everything that I had ever experienced. And in that time, I went through a divorce. I went through another marriage that was a domestic violence relationship. And all of that was just a sign that, like, listen, one, you got to do the work. You got to walk the walk to talk the talk. Because I remember sitting there and telling parents what to do before I had kids. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you were such an ass. Now that I look at it.
Go home and do the same thing yourself. Right.
Absolutely.
It's funny how wild, and I don't know what that is, but it seems to be a universal truth that we're just better at telling people what to do than doing it ourselves. I don't know where that comes from. Francis, you seem to have hit the jackpot here. You've got a great worldly, cultured wife that you get to share space with. I mean, her perspective is incredible.
I do. And, in life, I feel like if you do the work and you build yourself up the right way as a human being, you give yourself the opportunity to meet the right people. And, it doesn't just happen naturally, but I feel like if you really grow as an individual, you get opportunities. And I was so lucky when I met Camilla, and I can tell you that, I remember going through a divorce. I remember how hard it was. And I just worked on myself before I was worrying about dating anyone. And I remember spending time at Christmas time, and saying, I'm by myself, but it's okay. I'm going to, I had my daughter in the morning, and then in the afternoon, it was me and watching sports. And I remember thinking to myself, it's all going to work out in time because I'm doing the work. And it was 3 days later when I met Camilla, and, we just hit it off. And I just feel like, I am very blessed to have, a wonderful wife, and, the whole idea that we work together. Life is life. It's not like we don't ever get irritated or things don't happen. That's life. But what we do is we work together, we talk through it, and we get better. And, I'm very blessed to have Camilla. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, Camilla's this great she has a great, gentle approach to this. She's very soft. And then what's nice about your guys' program is that you come in a few weeks later and really kind of take over. And so let's get right to the reason we're here today, which is I want to learn a little bit more about your approach, because I hope that folks will lean on you. If you're out there and it's just not making sense right now, this is a couple of people who can help you make sense of it all very, very quickly too. Like, how long is the program beginning to end?
It's 10 weeks.
Yeah.
So it's a rapid transformation, but it hits all the right spots. So, after doing this type of work for 20 years, I came back and I was like, when it came time to make this program, I'm like, let's cherry pick the very best stuff. And let's use everything that we've done and we've used with hundreds of people that actually works, opposed to having to go through all these different techniques, tools, whatever, that are not effective.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. And we made sure that we double backed the process, because I work with loads of people and we do all the kind of beginning work, but then they're like, what's next?
That's the truth. That's what I love so much about my retreat, was that it was the 1-2 punch. It was a holistic approach. It was like, yes, we're going to talk about it, but here's how you're going to put it into action. And that's where you kind of step in, right, Francis? I mean, what she's done with that first few weeks, you jump in with a different kind of energy.
Yeah, I mean, Camilla told me 8 years ago, someday we're going to work together. We both have something to bring to the table. And we said, that sounds great. We're all excited. But then life moves on. She's working on her doctorate. I had a very successful corporate career. But we always in the back of our mind, like, well, someday. And I would tell her, like, well, when? I'm like, well, she's like, someday it'll happen. And I'm like, well, I hope so, I guess. And Camilla told me, this is when it hit home too. Camilla, a couple of years ago, said, I'm able to get people out of trauma. And it's so remarkable and wonderful. She's like, but then when they're done, she's like, there's a little bit of like, now what?
That's it.
And then she's like, but you're able to motivate people and you're tough. You get people going. But then the problem is if they have trauma, they start going backwards after they have this big spike of a great life. They go back because the trauma pulls them away. And she's like, what if we work together? We both like came to this conclusion together. Like, what if we do two parts? You got to get people out of trauma. Then you got to go after it and get people to live the life they want.
That's it. That's the key. So if I'm out here and I'm listening to us right now, I'm thinking, all right, I like these guys. They sound like there's a vibe there that I'm picking up on. What are the first couple of weeks like? I mean, somebody calls you and what happens after that, Camille?
Yeah. So the first kind of 5 weeks, and it's actually a 10 weeks. So the first 5 weeks are really about how do we get the body back in balance? How do we heal the nervous system? How do we change the body's responses to stressors, to trauma? How do we identify where we feel it in the body and how do we release it? So the key to going through the program is learning how to be able to function not only in a wider lens in terms of previous past trauma or pain, but being able to do it on a daily basis. When you get stuck in traffic, when somebody pisses you off at work, when you're dealing with your kids or your family or your difficult relationships. So it's really about how do we stop the stress response and the trauma responses dead in their tracks and replace them out. And remember, you can't go cold turkey with anything. You have to have tools to replace with. Anybody that's tried like a 30-day diet or something like that knows that after 30 days, you go back and you eat all the same crap you started with. So the idea is that the program is longer than the 66 days it takes to create a habit. Intentionally. And so you can get these things rolling. You understand what's going on in your body. You realize that what your body's doing is totally normal based on what the body is designed to do when you've experienced threat or fear. And then you move out of it. You take control back. You take your nervous system back. And that's really like the first part of the program.
I love that you said that because that was so true for me. It was like, okay, there's one thing to get all the tools, but you really need to put them into action for the next 90 days, right? And that's why the program is as long as it is. So, okay, the first phone call's made. I come in, I have a couple. My first few meetings are going to be with you.
Yeah, so we do an initial consult. So like we'll sit down, we'll talk about, okay, what are the things going on for you? What are the goals that you have? And, how can we help you? And we're very, very honest and transparent in that if somebody's not a good fit for our program, then we'll come up with an idea of another plan for them. But we want to make sure that the fit is as important as, the quality of the program. So we definitely will sit down and spend the time talking to people and finding out whether it's a good fit. And if it's a good fit, then we talk them through kind of the length of the program, how the program works, the commitment level, because it's all about commitment,
sure.
And the investment level in terms of what they need to put in from a time, energy, and kind of just emotional perspective as they move through it.
You say things like good fit. My feeling is that good fit means similar experiences to the both of you, because then you're able to resonate with people and actually, walk them through a storytelling. Francis, is that true?
Absolutely. And, Camilla said it exactly right. It's about commitment. So yeah, we want synergy to what we've experienced, but also do we have somebody that wants it? Because Camilla's always said it, sometimes you work so hard to help somebody, but if they don't want it, they'll win. I always tell my clients, if you are determined not to get to the end line, you will win. I will lose. Mm-hmm. But we will push like you've never seen before to help you get there. But you do, and we do want our clients initially to say, you know what, I'm at a point in my life where I want to have the real results. And once we see that, that's when we go all in.
Yeah, you and I have had that conversation before, that there is something so intoxicating about having the breakthroughs. And I remember going through my retreat and having this mantra of, I'm actually enjoying the process of healing.
Yes.
Like I'm actually enjoying going through all of this and setting it down. Speak to that a little bit, Camilla, about when people have those breakthrough moments with you, what they're able to experience and the freedom they're able to achieve.
Yeah, and I think that you raise a great point, which is that everything's a celebration. So this is not about pain. This is not about the painful past. It's about moving forward, healing the brain, the body, the nervous system, and then moving into relationships. So when we think about this, we're like, everything that they do and everything that they're experiencing is about growth. And it's exciting. So we're probably even more excited than they are at first, because we're modeling that way of coming into each day and each kind of experience new and resetting and resetting and resetting and celebrating and moving through that process. So we are, I wouldn't say we're like rah in that we're fake. We are authentically super excited for everything, every little, and we will find it. Like people like needle in the haystack, somebody will come in and they'll be like, oh man, I failed on that. And I'm like, no, you didn't. Talk me through it. And we will find the strength that's being built, the seeds that are being planted, the things that are growing in it. So that's part of what we do. And we love that. Like, I think that's probably one of the most exciting things for us.
It's your optimism. It's your energy that you bring to the situation. And Francis, you and I talked about it, being excited for life, getting some self-regulation tools to fill up the toolbox so that you can have a different outlook on this thing. Because talk about this, when you have the right tools, you can get through just about anything.
Yeah.
You can. And, people come to me and they'll say, I have this, you don't understand. I have that. I have this going on. And it's easy for you to say, but I have this, so I really can't do it. And I say, no, you can, because there's people that have had it way worse than that. Okay. And they've gotten through it, because you have to look at it from a different lens. If you look at it like, okay, here's where I am today, but I want to get to this place that I just don't think I ever can get to. But if I mentally commit that, yes, I can, I think I can, but I need someone to help me get there. I don't know how to get there, but at least I know I could. Like if someone showed me, I'm willing to go get it. And that's what we do. We show them the roadmap and we coach them through it and we push with them. We put the emotional investment into them. So if they're emotionally invested here and we have the right formula, which we do, you will get to the actual place you want to get.
How much of this, I know the answer to this question, but I want to hear it from you guys. How much of this is 100% on them to want it?
It's huge. I mean, I think a fundamental ingredient.
It's a whole thing, isn't it?
It is. I mean, I'm not going to sit there and sugarcoat. You got to want it.
Yeah.
Like I said, you get there. If you want it, we will get you that. We are so determined. Like, I feel it. Like, sometimes tell people, oh, my life has changed. I appreciate it. I said, you gave me more coaching than I gave you. And they're like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, because I'm watching you succeed. You just reinforced even more that this is what we need to do. And so it's such a wonderful feeling to watch people get there. And we're like, okay, well, if you can do it, we know the next client can do it. And it goes on.
You said something earlier, Camilla, that I want to pick up on, which is you guys are really good at helping folks jump that hurdle, teaching you why and how your body reacts to stress and trauma. And I'd love for you to just spend a couple of minutes talking about that, because when you're going through transformation, there is some physical that comes with it. Sometimes there's shifts in, energy. So go ahead. I'll let you talk about that.
Absolutely. So, one of the first things I start people with is teaching them about their brain and body. So I feel like that's the foundation. You can't move into relationships, emotions, anything else until you can sleep and you're eating right and you're moving. So like those are the basic kind of the base of the pyramid. So we have to fix that first. And so when I talk to people to begin with, I say, first of all, you're going to go through a rapid transformation. You're going to have to make some changes most likely, but they are going to be changes that are going to change your life. And even, that's outside of the trauma. So they're just things that your body needs to be able to function better. But second of all, the second step I feel is anything that you can wire in, you can wire out. And I love that quote. And I always come back to it. And I will even show people the pictures of like the neurons changing when you create a new habit or when you create a new tool in your toolbox, whether that's self-regulation or something else. So the change is real. Back when I used to train and I initially trained, they said it happens, but we didn't know. And now we can see the neuroscience that actually shows the parts of the brain changing. So when somebody tells me they can't do this, I say, bullshit, you can do it because look at this. Right. And I show them the actual brains changing. And that is a huge, amazing thing. So I always fall back on science because I think that sometimes our critic, our voices, our scripts, our childhood, our trauma tells us that we can't do things, but our body actually tells us that we can do things if we are releasing the dysregulatory responses on a daily basis.
Yeah,
so that's
right
the foundation.
That. Yeah, you're right. You're right about that. And it makes me so happy that you say all these words because having gone through the transformation myself, I can tell people she's telling you the truth. Yeah. She's really telling you the truth. And you're going to experience all kinds of things. You're going to experience some stuff in your gut, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, my own experience, I had terrible IBS when I was going through my bad relationships. I mean, my gut was tore up. I went to every specialist in London to try and get help on my gut. And finally, somebody sat down with me and asked me, what's going on with your marriage? And I said, actually, my husband's cheating on me and it's falling apart. And he's like, go take some peppermint oil and get a divorce. And I said, you know what? You're right. And I did do that. And that was like I think that was somebody at King's College in London after I had gone through like 4 specialists for IBS. But the truth is that when you heal your nervous system, you heal your gut, and your gut produces 90% of the serotonin. So that's all your feel good chemicals for your body. So I am a big proponent of gut health, because you can't rule out the way that digestion affects your mental health. Food and mood go together.
It's the truth. See, you see. I hope people understand why I'm so excited about this duo, because you have Camilla here with this whole wealth of knowledge on this side, and then you, Francis, this whole wealth of knowledge on the other side. One of your strengths, because you guys have a good relationship, is relationships. Yeah. And Francis, I'm going to have you pick up on a story you and I talked about when we were having coffee one morning about relationships and about how different we are at our job versus when we get to the house.
Absolutely. I always say, it's like, okay, you're in a new job, right? You're going to give it everything you have, right? And I'm going to show it. And then you get promoted and you're moving along. 5 years into the job, you're still motivated, right? You're not all of a sudden like, I'm 5 years in, I don't care about my job anymore. I hope it doesn't matter. No, you're 5 years into the job, and your boss says to you, listen, you're doing a great job. You're close to a promotion, and I just need you to do this job on a Friday at 1:00. It'll take an hour. Or are you going to be like, nah, I think I'm going to bag it? No, you're going to do it. You're going to do it, and you want to be proud. Great job. You're moving along. But wait, that's great. We all do that. But what about a relationship? You're 5 years in the beginning of a relationship. You're excited. It's all going. You're giving. You're buying flowers. You look beautiful. You're amazing. Wow, you're so considerate. All these things that fuel a relationship. Someone picks on your spouse. You're like, wait a second. What are you talking about? She's a great cook, or he's a great man. He's a great father. But 5, 7, 9 years into the relationship, all of a sudden it's like, yeah, Jack just watches sports downstairs and I just do this. Oh yeah, she goes into the, gets her hair done and we don't even talk. Okay, why? Why? Because we don't put the work in. 5 years into the job, what are you doing? You're going after it. Okay? 5 years into your marriage, all of a sudden complacency, lazy, you think it doesn't matter. But when you have the right formula and you know you love each other, you need that. When you know you love each other and you do the right things in a relationship and put the energy in, even though we've been around, you get a deeper relationship, and it can be 10 times more exciting and fulfilling than it ever was in the first 6 months. People may laugh and say, no, it wasn't. First 6 months are great. Yeah, they are. But year 9, if you do it right, it's 10 times better.
One of the greatest compliments that I pay my mom is that when I was growing up, she let us fall. She was not the mom who was the helicopter parent, right? She was like, go do it and fall down and get hurt. Yeah. You and I have talked before, Francis, that you have that kind of same approach. You're going to let somebody fall, put a Band-Aid on them and get them back up.
I tell people the truth. I always say, listen, 2 + 2 is 4. Well, no kidding. Okay, but if we want to convince ourselves and tell the world that 2 + 2 is 5. A simple analogy here, right? Or a little simple description here. You keep telling someone 2 + 2 is 5. 2 + 2 is 5. No, it is 5. You can start believing that. I mean, I understand we're a simple concept here, but in life, you start thinking, no, it's okay that my wife does her thing and I do my thing and we don't talk. That's not really a big deal. Listen, you've been married 10 years. It's fine. No, it's not. 2 + 2 is 4. It's not 5. You can convince yourself it's 5. We can all agree that it's 5. But here's the great thing about the truth. 2 + 2 is always 4. And in a relationship, when you give a lot and you expect to receive, I'm not talking about just giving and I'm not talking about just taking. When you give and you take the right way, you get the result. And really what we teach in the second part of the program is that, if you do the right things with conviction, you're going to get a result.
Yeah, it's not failing, friends. I hope that people buy into that so hard. Not having the tools yourself, not possessing the skills yourself isn't a reflection of you. It isn't a mark on you. It's simply you lack the skills. I grew up in Minnesota. I'm a pretty good hockey player. Put a lacrosse stick in my hand, I don't think I'm going to be able to know what to do. I'm going to have to get a coach.
Right.
I'm going to have to find somebody who knows these things, and I'm a quick learner, so I'll pick it up. And that's who therapy is for. That's who you guys are for. That's what this team is for people who are like, I'm a quick learner. I'm a pretty good study. I just need the right words, the right sequence of words to come together, and then the light bulb is going to get turned on for me.
If you want it, you can have it. You just need the formula.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that is the truth. Let's talk about transformation. That's what everybody's ultimately seeking, but it is not a beautiful thing. Transformation has its hills and its valleys.
Yeah.
So, Camille, what's your experience for the first couple of weeks, just so people can get a little framework about, what's going to taste and touch and feel like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that the biggest thing is that you have to be somebody that is open to making change. And once, to be honest with you, I've never had somebody argue against what we do in the first 5 weeks because they're like, it makes perfect sense. Sure. And I'm very intentional in making sure that I never do things with people that I haven't explained exactly why we're doing it. I want people to understand exactly why they're doing everything over those 5 weeks so that they can really, truly buy into it and not feel like it's just me telling them what to do. And part of that process is giving real life examples. It's having experience, having done all these things. I've done these things. Francis has done these things. Yeah. I've done them with lots and lots of people. So I know, I won't say I know every bump in the road, but I know a lot of the bumps in the road that people are going to hit.
You've seen the terrain.
Absolutely. And, I think that part of that process is just really committing to it. And I always tell people, have you ever committed to something for 30 days? And everybody, generally, I think at this point in time, especially if you're an adult, they're like, yeah, I've done a 30-day thing. And I'm like, yeah, well, this 30 days is going to change the rest of your life. It's not going to be something you're going to rescind on or go back to the old habits because you're building something that is powerful and strong, and you will see the effects. But people fall back, and I think that that's real. And that the reality is that's why you have to have the relationship part of working with somebody. Otherwise, you could do this on your own from a self-help book. Otherwise, you could watch something and just be able to do it by yourself. But you can't, because we know that trauma heals in relationship. We provide the relationship, and our relationship with people is 100% about who you can be. It's strength and capacity based and forward facing based, opposed to who you were. So what we're trying to do is create a new identity and to be able to take all the best things that maybe have been hidden or covered up or have just been overshadowed by scripts or bad relationships or whatever is happening in the life, and just be able to bring up everything that's beautiful and, dig all that beautiful stuff out. And at first people they're not used to it. So I'm not going to tell you, they're going to think that you're lying to them. What are you talking about? This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm still doing. And that's okay. But this is what you're not doing. This is what we noticed different. This is how you turned it around quicker. This is how the stress response that you would have gone into and you would have spiraled into drinking or doing something else. You didn't do that this time. Yes, you went to bed and you slept for the rest of the day. That's okay. That's the beginning. What you didn't do was pick up the bottle or whatever that might be, whatever their coping tool they're using right now is. So we want to remind people that it's about subtle changes and big celebrations throughout, especially the first 5 weeks.
It sounds hokey, but it's not.
It's not.
It's really real. And then Francis, I want you to pick up on this because doing this work in one area of your life is going to impact all the areas of your life.
Well, that's just it. If you start with all that Camilla does to help you really understand how to regulate why you're doing it. I love the word that Camilla said, why. It's all about why. If you know why, you're going to be motivated to do it if you're going to get a result. Yeah. You go with Camilla and you are learning to regulate your body, to put yourself in a whole different state physically and mentally. And now it's time for that quote unquote green light. And then you go after it. And then we work on the relationships, the creativity. You got to believe in yourself. You don't say, you're great. Go believe in yourself. It's not that simple, right? Yeah. We need to really know how and to get there, to really believe in yourself. Because in life, you're going to get people that are going to knock you. There's criticisms. There's stresses. All these things are going to knock you down. That was a great program until the real world comes in, right? Well, how do you get through that? Because the real world's coming. So how are you going to be equipped to believe in yourself after you've gone through the program? How are you going to be resilient to actually truly get these things that you're looking for?
Yeah. As we wind down and get our podcast coming to a close, I think one of the things I'd like to spend some time on is bringing people to reality. Yeah. And the reality that I like to serve up is that your life, if you want it to change, doesn't get to look the same as it did before. Mm-hmm. And so if you want transformation and you want change, let's speak on this. Some people have to go. Some jobs have to go. Some people need to move. Some people need to make big changes in their life. Some people need to leave a spouse, right? Like these are very big truths, aren't they?
Absolutely. And I think you can't underplay that. We are a complex interaction of environment and then our own tools. And I will give everybody the tools that they can to be able to deal with stress, because stress is only a physiological response. But if you are in an environment that is tripping your nervous system off day after day, hour after hour, you're going to struggle. You can work through it. I will tell you that you can, but why would you want to put yourself through that? And I will tell you that we both had to drop things, relationships, jobs, everything in our life, as well as bad coping tools. I gave up drinking about 2.5 years ago because I realized it was a bad coping tool. Like it's about reprogramming and resetting, and it does mean loss. And I think sometimes people think, oh, it's all good, it's all wonderful. No, it's sad. It's a loss process. It's a grieving process of the old self and the way that you've done things for a long time. But it's also a transitional process. And when you talk about transformation, there's loss and there's gain, and it's real.
Well, let me say, you guys will serve up tools to go through loss with a completely different mindset. Like, I know now you're thinking to yourself, if it's your job or your spouse or something like that, if you're listening to this conversation, you think, I don't know how I'm going to go through that. They'll provide the tools. You'll get tools so that you can go through this in a way that you're going to be able to manage it.
Absolutely. And in addition to that, you got to look at life from a cost benefit analysis. I always try to talk to my clients. Listen,
this is the corporate Francis.
The corporate world that's helped me through this piece. It's cost benefit. What do you mean? That's not life. What do you mean? We're talking relationships, self-respect, cost benefit. Yeah. No, what it is understanding that. What happens if I do it the way I've been doing it for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? I have somebody right now I'm working with 80 years old who's like, I have this, and going on. I don't know what to do. 2 months later, my life's changed, he said. I'm like, you're 80 years old. You're able to do this? And so it tells me that everyone else, 70, 60, 50 can do it.
It's never too old.
Never.
It really isn't.
It's not.
And what an unbelievable piece I live my life with. I'm sure you do too, right? After doing the work, going through it, understanding what's happening, and knowing that you don't have to get worked up about every little thing that was going on in your life.
Absolutely. And, knowing you have control over it, like knowing that you can respond differently, that it's not about everybody else, but it's about you, and that you can manage it. Like, you can go through a day and handle stressors and not get bulldozed and not move into a full blown, response where you're doing things that aren't true to you or that don't make you feel good about you. And I feel like that's where it's at. I mean, if I think about that, and that's the premise of having good relationships too, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and I always think of it as like a bike. You get on a bike for the first time as a kid, right? And I remember it's like you get on the bike and you fall, and I don't want to ride this bike. Having bikes is terrible. I don't want a bike. Yeah, right. What do you mean you don't want a bike? No, you're going to get on the bike. I just bought you to buy. Okay, you get on again. You're like, I fall again. See, I hate it. Then all of a sudden, it's like a week or two later, you're riding that bike and you're proud and you're like, this is great. Well, that's how relationships also work. In the beginning, you're like, wait, what do you mean I have to give my wife a compliment? I'm irritated with her. What do you mean I have to stick up for her? When someone complimented me and it was a little trap where I could have actually stick up for my wife and be there for her. But instead I took the bait because someone was complimenting me at her, her negative to her. And it's like, well, yeah, but I'm going to do that. Although at first, maybe you're not used to doing these things, just like falling off that bike. It feels awkward. I had someone tell me once, like, I kind of feel like stupid doing this right now because I'm so vulnerable. And I'm like, yeah, but keep doing it. Because when the rewards start coming back and you start receiving, you're going to feel real good.
I'm glad you said that, because you do. There are some things and modalities, and you're going to have some experiences that are a little out of body. They feel a little funny. They feel a little weird. Silly is a great word. I don't care. You can use what you want. But
silly, awkward, uncomfortable, embarrassed.
Yes.
A lot of people say that, I feel embarrassed. I'm like, yeah, you feel embarrassed because you're vulnerable. But so did you when you went on the bike. I bet you know how to ride one.
Yeah. Well, and I can tell you, anybody who's gone through and done it will say the same thing. The little bit of pain that you go through in that transition is worth the transformation. Yes. Because your life, you could put in a little bit of work right now. You could put in 10 weeks with these guys and have a completely different life. Think about that. I mean, in every single aspect. Imagine waking up in the morning and being excited about what you do. Imagine waking up in the morning and wanting to give your spouse a kiss and a hug because you truly see them now for the first time in a long time. That's right. I mean, these are the kinds of changes you guys can help people achieve, yes?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think, just the waking up and not being scared. Not being scared is a huge thing. And, that's another piece that we work on is moving out of fear. And, fear just takes you down, and it can take you down from the beginning of the day to the end of the day. And, when you've experienced trauma, you're in a fear response a lot. And when you get rid of fear, it's amazing. It's amazing.
And I talked earlier about, when Camilla gave me the green light, how wonderful that feels and felt at that time. But I'll also say, in this program and in life, you have to also give yourself the green light. Mm-hmm. And you have the power to give yourself the green light and not wait for others. Now, when others do it, amazing. But you got to start giving yourself the green light to say, you know what? I want this.
That's true. But first you need to see Camilla to understand why you keep saying no to yourself, because that's a really important piece of the puzzle. I mean, I'm with you, Camilla. When you discover the why and you figure out why I keep self-sabotaging, saying no to things that might bring me some joy and success, giving others some certain freedoms over myself, when you figure out why you keep making those choices, it's like, oh, that's why? Well, that's dumb. I'm not going to do that anymore. And it literally is that fast.
Yeah.
Like the finger snaps and you like, I won't do that anymore.
Yeah.
You're right.
And it gives you the freedom to make new choices. And I love how we get ready for them to launch into Francis as part of the program, because they're primed. They're ready. They're like, okay, I let that shit go. Now let's start with something else. You know what I mean? Good. That is the transition point, don't you think?
I do. And here, I just tell everyone, I'm like, you're not going to be ready for me right away. So you need to do all this work first to get you to a spot that when you get to me, you're going to be ready for that. So that's why we need the two separate parts into one comprehensive program.
Yeah, man, I come up with this. She's a survivor turned thriver that has tried, tested, and cherry-picked the most amazing tools and strategies, coupled with a good dose of creative flair and a PhD. He's got 20 years of successful corporate and coaching and leadership experience, and they both, as you can clearly hear, have a passion to lead people into the amazing dynamic life they've always dreamed but never thought possible. I enjoyed the hell out of our conversation. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
It's really good, man. And I'm telling you, as we're talking here, I'm thinking we need to do some quarterly sessions where we get big groups of people together and we can just come in and pump them up.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's right.
All right, I'll write that down. We'll get to it. Dr. Camilla, thank you. Francis, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everything can start to change today. If you want to learn more, you just text the word LEARN to 623-202-4553. It's in the show comments if you want to check it out there. But listen, their 10-week program is no joke. And what I love about it so much, and what really honestly attracted me to them so much, was the fact that she's a psychologist and she's a PhD, and she's got all this knowledge, but she really seems to cherry pick from her life and the real life situations that she's picked up on to help you get through your own stuff. She's just unbelievable. And then Francis's energy is like something you've never seen before. I mean, this guy is going to walk into the room and you are going to be like, I don't know if I'm ready. But trust me, you're ready. He'll take great care of you. You'll just, I hope you'll enjoy getting to know them as much as I have. So if you want to learn more, again, it's 623-202-4553. Just text the word LEARN to 623-202-4553. All right, that does it for us. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us today. And thank you very much to Dr. Camilla Pekka and Francis from A Growing Space.